things that happen in the Ethereum community lately. So, we have the whole DeFi thing, like decentralized finance trend. And so here, we have like the market, which is people here, right? Like people that work in the crypto space or know how to use crypto a little bit. And then you have like different kind of bank accounts. There are some like InstaDApp, Argent that act as your like crypto bank, so to say. Bank because you can like hold money, but you also can basically get loans or stuff like that. Then you have like financial apps like Augur for betting, Uniswap for exchanges, and then Banking, Compound, Kyber, which you all know very well here. And then we have like capital markets, which I think ICOs were that kind of market in which you could just go in and then sell and just kind of invest in different projects. You have reserve banking, Maker with the CDPs, a store of value Ether. That's kind of kind of depends on how Ether develops as store of value in the future. I would argue that Bitcoin right now is a much better store of value, but there's the argument that Ether can also be a store of value. And so if you look at like DeFi, decentralized finance, like probably the first use case that no one talks about was actually ICOs and token sales, because it was literally decentralized finance, right? It was literally like financing someone in a decentralized and unstoppable way, and so that's very powerful. And so if we look at actually the things that it gave us, is like first of all global peer-to-peer fundraising, like someone in Korea could actually just send money into a token sale that was happening in like Iran, for example, or the US or whatever, and it will work. There's a lot of liquidity, or there was a lot of liquidity, which is very important. If you have like a token that is illiquid, then it is not that worthy. Comparable to like startups, like for example, startups are having a lot of issues with liquidity. Like if you have been one of the like very first employees at Uber or Airbnb or something like that, you will have to wait like 8 years or like 10 years to be able to cash out on those shares. And so with this model, we basically solve liquidity. And then also, ICOs funded years of research and development. Like in our case for Aragon, we had our token sale in 2017, and now like we've done all of this research and implementation and kind of contributed back to the Ethereum ecosystem with a lot of frameworks and tools. And that was the token sale money that allowed us to do that. Without that, we wouldn't be here today. But then there were a bunch of other things that were not very, let's say, appealing about the ICO model. So first of all, lump sum payouts, which led to a bunch of scams. Basically, you get $30 million upfront, no vesting, no nothing. You literally get $30 million upfront. A lot of people with like very weak principles just cash out on that money and went to live somewhere and scam all of their participants. And so that wasn't obviously very good. Impossible to, here's like difficult to recover funds. I think it's like probably impossible. You can go to court, but the court that you go to doesn't have the multi-sig keys or like the Ethereum keys where your funds are. So even if you want to enforce something, it's just impossible to recover your funds if someone decides to like scam you. Like after the whole ICO trend, there were other things like collateral effects, collateral damage. One of them is like exchanges wanted to get fees for listing. So I don't know exact figures. Well, I actually do, but I don't want to tell about them. But like, if you want to get listed into major exchanges today, you have to put like up to like 7 figures for that to happen. And so that's a lot of money for just liquidity and also basically a bribe. So in a world where we are supposed to actually decentralize things and remove man in the middle, it's kind of ironic that we're doing kind of the opposite, and we're like literally like bribing some exchanges to get listed. And also, if you are not in these exchanges, if you don't want to pay this bribe, that you have low liquidity issues because you don't have the liquidity that participants would like for you to have in order to like get in and get out of the network and buy tokens. You also have the issue right now that all tokens, basically ERC20 tokens, are linked to ETH in terms of price. So when ETH fluctuates, all the ERC20 tokens basically fluctuate. There are a couple that don't, but basically that's it. And also, ICO also attract a lot of like short-term speculators. Like you could see this kind of part of the year in 2017, where people would like get into an ICO and then literally wait like 2 days and dump their tokens. So kind of literally like a pump and dump. And that's obviously fun for trolls and stuff like that, but not fun for, or not useful in the long term for creating valuable technology. And so the question that we ask ourselves is, how can we really change the dynamics in a way that we can raise capital like ICOs, which again are wonderful by themselves, so there's nothing wrong in them. This is more on the human side, but technology is usually amazing, allows anyone in the world to send tokens or send like ETH or whatever and get tokens back, and that's wonderful. But we need to maintain that accountability in order to prevent scams. And so the answer turns out to be governance. So basically, I think it is very, very important to come back to history and analyze why better governance is needed. And so, for example, in the London Stock Exchange, so this is a very interesting story. So early stockbrokers were excluded by the system, by the legal system in the state, in a very similar way that if you want to raise money from anyone in the world in a global fashion, you just cannot do it using the legal system. There are so many barriers, the KYC stuff, all of those things that just make it impossible. And then there was a lot of fraud and stuff like that. So, you know, they recognized that maybe they could benefit by mitigating it. And then, you know, basically a lot of other financial markets follow the path similar to the London Stock Exchange. And that's basically what's happening right now. Like, there's a significant portion of capital in the world that has no way to operate in the existing system, so it looks for a new system. And right now, if you look at the capital that is going on and out in crypto, it's really a lot of money, and part of it's actually being used to fund research. So how can we keep this going? I don't think we need to shut down token sales. I don't think we need to shut down innovation. We need to do the opposite. And so their solution in this case was quite interesting. So basically, it was self-regulated. So these stock market traders would create would meet in coffee houses and then kind of form private clubs to create and enforce rules between them. And then they kind of created like more and more technology around it. Technology, I mean, I would say technology centuries ago, which is different to the technology we create. But let's say ways in which they understood each other and kind of social contracts, subscription fees, membership requirements, and then of course this self-regulation means that someone who doesn't follow those rules gets kicked out. And so, of course, they kind of created here this parallel legal system where if you don't really serve your membership rules well, you kind of get kicked out, but you don't have to go to court or stuff like that. It's like a parallel system almost. And so we thought about how can we have something similar. How we don't want to have like global dystopian regulation. We don't want to have a nation state telling us how a project can raise funds and how they can't. Because we've seen this with the US and the SEC, that theoretically they want to protect investors, and that's where you have a lot of these accredited investors rules. So people who earn less than X amount of money, they cannot buy stocks, they cannot invest into startups and stuff like that. But that also threatens a lot of population, because if you look at Bitcoin, if you look at these cryptocurrencies, they allow for mainstream audiences to actually profit and be part of that value creation from the early days, versus decades ago where you will only be part of this value creation if you were a VC and you had a strong network and you could call Steve Jobs and be like, hey, I want to invest in like Apple Series A or Series B round. And so now with cryptocurrencies, we can actually give access to a lot of people in the world, basically everyone in the world who knows how to use a computer to actually be part of these networks. So we've been working on our very own fundraising application. I want to say this is an application on Aragon, so this is not that Aragon is fundraising. Aragon is not fundraising. But we want other people to fundraise. And so it is an Aragon application. You see here the beautiful Aragon interface. All of those apps in the left, the home app, the voting app that lets people vote and govern their organizations, the finance app, that is like the bank account of the DAO, the payroll app, all these things. And fundraising is going to be a new application. And so the cool thing about fundraising is that it allows for long-term funding, it allows for liquidity, and it allows for accountability. How? Well, so this is the this setup when you create a new fundraising using Aragon fundraising. And so basically you have here multiple settings. So for example, the target goal of your pre-sale terms, you can have a pre-sale term, and then once that ends, you have like this kind of continuous sale using a bonding curve. So basically, the TLDR for this bonding curve mechanism is that you have first a pre-sale, like a pretty similar pre-sale to what we are using the kind of ICO world. And then once that's done, then you have this continuous fundraising mechanism, which basically creates liquidity for your token in a decentralized way, similar to how Uniswap works to some extent. And then people can buy in and buy out. If you have more people who buy in, then this reserve of funds from the project goes bigger and bigger. If people sell, this reserve goes down a little bit. And the good thing is that the funds are actually held by the DAO, and gradually there's a tap rate, which I think you see somewhere around there, which basically allows for the team that is working on this project to actually get paid, be able to pay their employees and stuff like that. But they get this tap in a continuous way. It's like small drops of funding instead of just like letting all the water flow, right? So you have this kind of continuous funding instead of like having this lump sum funding. And the cool thing is that token holders at some point they can be like, well, this team is not really delivering, they are scamming us, so let's cut funding. But yeah, as you see, it's very, very easy to set up. I mean, there are some parameters that obviously need to be tweaked, but it's very, very easy to set up. You literally do this, do one click, and you have your fundraising live. So as I was saying, like there are two different pools, the reserve and the disperse scenario. And so basically the reserve is like where all the money is, like the big money, let's say, when there's a fundraising event. And then the disperse scenario is the one that the team controls. And so basically token holders have to allow for this team to receive money in the first place. So if they are not delivering for some reason, or if they are scamming token holders can actually cut that. And so this is the bonding curve. So basically what this means here is that, for example, right now the price of the token is like $800. There's this market cap, this trading volume, and this trading volume here in the decentralized sort of exchange that is created by Aragon fundraising. You may still have your token listed on any traditional exchanges or other decentralized exchanges. Token supply and the reserves. And so the reserves, what that means there is that basically, since people have been putting money into the curve, people have been putting money and buying tokens, each time that happens, there's a percentage that goes into those reserves. And so basically you just have more and more reserves, and then when you sell, what you do is actually you take money out of the reserves. So the cool thing here is, because you may be asking yourself, but the team is gonna eventually basically withdraw the reserves because they need to pay salaries, and over time this reserve is gonna kind of tend to be zero. And so there are two answers here. First of all, in traditional kind of evolution of startups and evolution of projects, what you have is like an initial investment, and then after that what you have usually is like people burn the money in exchange for creating real value. And so here you may have this token, let's call it we can call it, the core token. And so this token here, in the beginning, it may raise $1 million, for example. And so this $1 million goes into the reserve pool. And so each time you buy, you are giving more money to the reserve pool, and when you sell, you are taking it out. And so, of course, there's also this tab that sends money to the team, so they can do payroll, they can hire people, they can execute on the vision. But over time, what's going to happen is that this team is going to deliver, and so this team is going to deliver something. Let's say, for example, they're building a blockchain, and so if they're building a blockchain with this money, they're going to deliver the blockchain, and then the value of this token is actually going to be the value of the token in that blockchain, so that use case. So basically, you are turning this initial investment into something valuable, and in the beginning, this is just valuable because you can get part of the reserves with your token. You can sell your token and get part of your reserves back. But over time, this token appreciates because they build the product that they promised, and then ultimately it's only valuable because of that. And that's the monthly allowance parameter. So basically, this team here will have like 10K to spend on development. And then how to support projects. So we're working on this very, very cool platform, which is going to be similar to like Kickstarter in terms of user experience. So basically here you may have a decentralized project, and then you have like a big fat button, which is like support this project. And then after that, you can just directly buy from here. And we're also working on discovery platforms, so basically people and newcomers can actually discover projects. It would be very cool to have some kind of curation, so we can actually show users things that are not scams. I mean, with this platform, with this Aragon fundraising platform, it is very hard to do a scam because like literally token holders have all the control, so you cannot just get your money and run because of how the system works. But I still want to have this curation platform to ensure the highest quality projects. And then you can also just go to the Aragon app, create a new order there. So you say, I want to buy 85 tokens using DAI or AUT, which are two tokens that are allowed by default on Aragon fundraising. And then if there's an investing period that the project may want to impose, for example, let's say I want to have like very long-term aligned token holders, so I set a vesting period that everyone that buys must buy and hold for a year, for example. So then if you vest, you are able to sell. And if there's no vesting, you can just sell immediately. And that's like literally 2 clicks. Then you have there the new order button, and then buy and sell, and you do it from this interface, fully decentralized, like Aragon, the team behind Aragon cannot really do anything to shut this down. It's a fully decentralized app. Even all of the user experience you see here is actually loaded from IPFS, so it is fully decentralized. There is no way we can shut this down, which is the magic of it. You use open source software and you can use it to do whatever you want. And then you can also vote to release funds to the team. And so obviously as token holder, you will have to monitor that things are going great. The team is working, the team is delivering. This can take many different forms. This can be for crypto projects. So like if someone again is building a blockchain, you may run the testnet or the test client and you're like, wow, this works. I'm gonna release more funds to this team. Or maybe this team is just working on making a video, for example, and you see the preview of the video or like the mock-ups for the scenery, and you're like, wow, this is great. And you keep funding the team. And so I think it's important to get into this kind of mentality that we are not just passive participants, we're active. And so when you get into a project, you also have the power to vote and influence it over time. And then you can also, as I said, sell tokens back to the project. And so you get a proportional amount of the reserve funds whenever you want. So this is not like you put your money and then, maybe these people are like going to buy Lambos and Ferraris and then I'll see my money again. It's actually the opposite. Like you put it in and then the team starts receiving slowly the funds. You have to vote to approve this to happen. And then if even with that, if at some point you don't believe in the project anymore, or you just want to sell because you're happy with your profit or anything like that, then you can sell back. And then you get like part of the reserves in the pool back. And so, of course, like if there is more interest in the project over time, there are going to be more people buying. And so essentially what they are going to be doing is they're going to be funding the project. I think that's very cool compared to just buying in like traditional centralized exchanges or even decentralized exchanges, is that with this bonding curve mechanism, each time you buy or you sell, you're effectively signaling how the project is working. Because if it's working very well, people are going to buy, and if they buy, they are going to give more funds for this team to work and for making the project successful. And if your team is not doing that well, you can always sell, and the team like gradually loses funds. And so, like if we put this in a table and we compare all of these kind of mechanisms, so we have like some attributes, for example, how funds are being disbursed. And so with ICO, it's like lump sum, like you have all your funds up front and that's it. With fundraising, it's based on milestones, so the team can gradually request more and more funding. If you're a token holder, how easy can you recover your funds? Well, ICO hard / impossible, and Aragon fundraising fairly easy. You just sell your tokens back to the bonding curve. Transparency, well, I mean, there's some projects that have done a lot of effort to make some transparency in their finances. For example, if you go to transparency.aragon.org, we have this beautiful dashboard with a lot of our like transactions displayed. so token holders can actually know how we're spending this money. But unfortunately, I think only Aragon does this really. So with Aragon fundraising, we made sure that everything is transparent by default. So you can go to the finance tab on the left in this DAO, and basically see all the finances, see how the team is spending their money. And then in terms of course, accountability, it's very, very different because token holders have always the power in this new fundraising mechanism. Liquidity, this is very, very cool. In ICOs, like you either get listed or that's it. And so that's why exchanges can actually afford to have these huge bribes to get tokens listed. With this new model, the bonding curve is the one that guarantees liquidity. So at any time, at any point in time, even if the token is not listed in any traditional or decentralized exchange, you can go to the bonding curve and exchange it, which I think is very cool because we're going to have, with this use case, we're going to see a lot of high growth projects, but also we're going to see a bunch of like small stuff, like, you want to create your own fundraising for your trip to the US, or like you want to create a fundraising for doing a meetup, feel free to do so. And then you have instant liquidity for your tokens. And then treasury asset, with ICOs, it was like ETH, which is probably a very bad asset for fundraising, very volatile. With Aragon fundraising, you can use DAI, which is, as you know, a stable coin pegged to the dollar, so it's extremely stable. And then in terms of incentives, ICOs is more like short-term speculators, and Aragon fundraising attracts more like long-term holders who also want to participate in governance. So, yeah, to wrap up, I think with the London Stock Exchange example, like coffee houses gave us this self-regulated model for financial markets. But of course, that doesn't really scale globally. ICOs gave us what we can call like trust minimized global capital markets, in which like you put $1, you get one token, and that's handled by a smart contract. So that's really trust minimized, but they were not accountable at all. And with Aragon fundraising, we're trying to marry both worlds. So actually, we have these global capital markets that are so efficient and powered by smart contracts, but also they are accountable. And they are not accountable because there is some dystopian huge entity that is taking care of making sure that everyone goes to jail if they don't comply. It is accountable because the smart contracts say so, and because both token holders and the team have agreed via smart contracts that they are going to operate in this way, in this accountable way. And so this is the power of decentralized governance. This is what we do at Aragon, decentralized governance. We've been working since 2016 in DAOs. I think DAOs were quite a horrible word back in the day because of the DAO hack. And there were not a lot of people who were working on DAOs back in the day because of that. But I think DAOs are wonderful, and DAOs enable so many things to happen. And I think right now it's a very good moment to actually think about governance more and more. Also, with all of these decentralized finance protocols that are creating a lot of value, but actually they are not that decentralized today. If you look at how they upgrade their protocols, if you look at how they operate, they still operate very centralized. And so I think it's very important to have these DAOs, these governance entities that actually help us decentralize more and more power. And also, with decentralization here, we can enable bigger and better kind of token sales to happen. I think the 2017, again, it was a wonderful year for funding development, but it was also a terrible year in which a lot of money just got lost in scams. And so we hope that this will take back that energy of like, let's fund great development, let's take the space further without all these scams and people buying Ferraris and Lambos with their ICO money. So that's it. That's my Twitter handle, and we are hiring different positions, mainly people that are very focused on product, so basically engineers and tech people, but we also have a bunch of other positions open. So definitely, if it's something that you're passionate about, you can reach out afterwards. For now, we can have some questions and then give it on to Jorge. So yeah, thank you.